asked for a happy time thrice before starting. That nobody has asked for. Yeah. Right. I was like giving you guys tidbits. Little tidbits, little surprise live features. We are now live on our channel. Oh, did I not pray? Fudge sickles. I'll pray after. Okay. Astaghfirullah. Oh well. Anyway. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. توكلت عليك يا ربي. 3, 2. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to another episode of Quran in English. My name is Ahmad and I'm happy to take you through the third section of Surah Al-Ahzab. And we talk about marriage, with specifically the messenger / the prophet. And we get into the one verse where, is he the last prophet? Is he the last messenger? Fun stuff. But before we get into it, let me explain what I'm doing here. I'm here to learn about the Quran, practice reading the Quran, and see what I can understand from the verses, and share my education with you. If you like that, great. If you're not, okay. Anyway. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Oh, by the way, again, it says the word wives, but it clearly uses the word women. And we're going to see a fine example of that shortly. We're talking about the women of the Prophet. And the last thing they said was that if you were to commit any blatant misconduct, the punishment would be doubled, and that would be easy for God. So now we have the opposite. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ومن يقنط منكن لله ورسوله وتعمل صالحا نؤتها أجرها مرتين واعتدنا لها رزقا كريما. Which, interesting. And whoever is obedient from you to God and His Messenger, and she does good deeds, she does good, then we will give her her reward twice over. And we have prepared for her a provision that is noble. Now, what's interesting is this is not fair in comparison to what I've seen in other parts of the Quran, at least from my perspective of what fair is. In other parts of the Quran, if you do bad, bad is doubled, but if you do good, it's like tenfold. Whereas here, if they do bad, it's doubled, and if they do good, it's doubled. It's exactly the same. Which, why is it not the same exponential gain and loss that was mentioned in other verses? Question mark. But that's just my own perspective. I'm sure there's an answer for it. There's always an answer. And like I said, this is about education, so I'm trying to learn. I don't know what the answer is right now. Yeah, so this is why I tell you Nisa means women, not wives. You'll see. يا نساء النبي لستن كأحد من النساء إن اتقيتن فلا تخضعن إن اتقيتن فلا تخضعن بالقول فيطمع الذي في قلبه مرض وقلنا قولا معروفا. Nisa, same word twice. But as you'll see, here it says, O wives of the Prophet, you are not as one of the women. So now they're using the proper verse, women, but before they use the word wives, which again, it talks later in these verses about which I think women are considered the Prophet's women. Not just their wives. Their wives are a part of the women, but there's more than that. And we'll see that example later in these verses, which is interesting. But anyway, O women of the Prophet, you're not the same as other women. If you fear God, then do not be soft in your speech. So here they translated it to be overly effeminate, to be like super soft in your speech. So it becomes greedy for the fayatma. So it causes someone to move with desire. Someone causes lust, greed in their hearts for the one who has a disease in his heart. So don't be too soft, so that those with disease in their hearts feel like and they wanna pounce. Which honestly, there's a lot of men with disease in their hearts. I think that's kind of the point. But say a word that is appropriate. Speak moderately. So here it is prescribing to the women of the Prophet, and we will see who those women are shortly. وقرنا في بيوتكن ولا تبرجن تبرج الجاهلية الأولى وأقمنا الصلاة وآتينا الزكاة وأطعنا الله ورسوله إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. And stay in your houses and do not display yourselves the display of the former ignorance, the people who used to be ignorant before you. Why is there so much mess here? I don't know. Yeah. Stay at home and don't display yourselves the way that the ignorant people used to display themselves, and establish prayer and give zakah, alms tax, the purification of money by giving back to charity, to those in need, to those who need it, and obey God and His Messenger. And God only wishes to remove upon you any impurity, any filth, any evil. أهل البيت. Oh. The grammar confuses me here. ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. So He can remove from you the impurity of the people of the house. And cause to purify you through purification. The grammar is just strange. ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. So He can remove from you the impurity and evil, and it says the people of the house. Yeah, so maybe it's like addressing them. So you can remove, indeed, God only wishes to remove upon you the impurity and evil, O people of the house, and to purify you a proper purification. It's just strange. And they could have translated it exactly the way that it was written. There's an English way of writing that. 33:33. Very interesting verse. Strange. واذكرن ما يتلى في بيوتكن من آيات الله والحكمة إن الله كان لطيفا خبيرا. And mention or remember what has been recited in your homes from the verses of God and the wisdom. Indeed, God was all subtle and all aware. Allah's revelations reverses the verse of the Quran, whereas the prophetic wisdom reverses the sayings and teachings of the Prophet Muhammad, known collectively as hadith. This I need to look into a bit more. I think I'm a little bit limited in my perspective of what his prophetic wisdom was, because he was a prophet. I used to think at some point that the Quran was his prophecy, but he might have had other prophecies. You know, I mean, إن المسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات والقانتين والقانتات والصادقين والصادقات والصابرين والصابرات والخاشعين والخاشعات والمتصدقين والمتصدقات والصائمين والصائمات والحافظين فروجهم والحافظات والذاكرين الله كثيرا والذاكرات أعد الله لهم مغفرة وأجرا عظيما. Indeed, those who submit, and those who submit male, those who submit female, those who believe male, those who believe female, those who are obedient male, those who are obedient female, those who are truthful male, those who are truthful female, the patient men, the patient women, the humble men, the humble women, the ones who give, the men who give charity, the women who give charity, the men who fast, the women who fast, the men who guard their chastity, and the women who guard, the men who mention or remember God a lot, and the women who mention or remember God has prepared for them forgiveness and a reward that is great. وما كان لمؤمن ولا مؤمنة إذا قضى الله ورسوله أمرا أن يكون لهم الخيرة من أمرهم ومن يعص الله ورسوله فقد ضل ضلالا مبينا. And here we get back into the topic of, do we have free will? And it is not for the one believing man nor the believing woman that when God and his messenger have decreed or decided a matter, decreed a command, that it is not for the believer and the disbeliever that for them is a choice about their affair. For the believers, they don't have a choice. When they hear something, they do it. You know what I mean? And whoever disobeys God and his messenger, then he has strayed into an error that is clear. So why did I mention free will? Well, because I also don't have a choice. I don't have a choice whether to believe. I don't have a choice whether to obey. I did have a choice whether to obey. Whether I could pray or not, whether I can eat pork or not, whether I can fast or not. I do have these choices in a way. And in a way I don't have these choices. But yeah, disobeying God and his messenger, I couldn't. So if we don't have a choice in the matter, then where's the free will? Yeah, you're saying if God or the messenger makes a ruling in the Quran, then a Muslim is not allowed to seek judgment from anyone else. It does feel like sometimes I don't have a choice. I don't know. Choice is confusing. وإذ تقول للذي أنعم الله عليه وأنعمت الله وإذ تقول للذي أنعم الله عليه وأنعمت عليه أمسك عليك زوجك واتق الله وتخفي في نفسك ما الله مبديه وتخشى الناس والله أحق أن تخشاه فلما قضى زيد منها وطرا زوجناكها لكي لا يكون على المؤمنين حرج في أزواج أدعيائهم إذا قضوا منهن وطرا وكان أمر الله مفعولا. Now, these are very nuanced and specific rules of marriage, and the Prophet was used as an example um, because it is talking about a specific person, Zayd. But anyway, it says, "And when you said to the one who God has bestowed his favor upon him, and that you have bestowed favor upon him, when you tell that person, imsik alayka zawjatika, keep hold to yourself your wife, and be mindful of God." What there was actually, I saw somebody that gave me a different word. It wasn't mindful. I can't remember, but it was like another form of like keeping God in the forefront of what you're thinking of. You know what I mean? Glorifying God. I don't know. Anyway, the person who God bestowed favors upon him, and you bestowed favors upon him, you told him, hold on to your wife and be mindful of God. But conceal in yourself what God wanted to disclose. And you fear that people, while concealing what you got, and God has more right that you should fear him rather than fearing what people would think. So he was going to divorce his wife, but he was saying, hold on to your wife, be mindful of God, and don't be afraid of what other people think, but be more afraid of what God thinks. I just didn't understand what you concealed in yourself, what God wanted to disclose. That I don't understand. While concealing within yourself what God was going to reveal. It makes me feel like this whole person and his wife were supposed to be used as an example to all of the Muslims, so you didn't have to hide this example. You should just be open to God. Anyway, so when Zayd ended his relationship with his wife and he did the necessary formalities to divorce her, we married her to you, O Prophet, so that it will not be for the believers any shame or discomfort concerning their wives, the wives of their adopted sons, if when they have ended from them the necessary formalities. And this was a command by God that was accomplished. So several things are being said here. There are also several things that are not being said. First, this refers to Zayd ibn Haritha, the Prophet's adopted son, before adoption was made unlawful. I read that before and I didn't understand. I think in Islam, the conventional Western form of legal adoption, or adopted child is treated as a biological child with the same surname and inheritance rights, is considered unlawful. This is because Islam emphasizes the preservation of biological lineage. However, the fostering and sponsoring an orphan, kafala, is highly encouraged and virtuous act. This involves providing care, shelter, food, clothing, education, essentially raising the child as one's own, but within distinctions from legal adoption. Interesting. Because I was like, yeah, I'm sure you can do kafala, but you can't do tabanni. I didn't actually know that. Come to think of it, yeah, I've never heard of someone having an adopted person in the Muslim world, but I just never knew that there was a whole ruling around it. Anyway, this refers to Zayd ibn Harith, the Prophet's adopted son. Before adoption was made unlawful, his wife Zainab bint Jahsh was from a prestigious family, but because Zayd and Zainab came from two different social classes, the marriage was not successful. This is speculation. We just know that it wasn't successful. Eventually, well, there might be some hadith. I don't know. Eventually, Zayd insisted on divorcing his wife despite several appeals from the Prophet. Since one's adopted son is no longer considered to be one's own son, the Prophet was later allowed to marry Zainab. So I think this is what God wanted to disclose, that you wanted to conceal within yourself. But then I guess it's such weird territory. Also, how many wives did the Prophet have? This is all a bit above my head, if you ask me. ما كان على النبي من حرج فيما فرض الله له سنة الله في الذين خلوا من قبل وكان أمر الله قدرا مقدورا. There can be no blame, discomfort for the Prophet and what God has imposed for him. It is the way of God, it is the permissible way of God for those who have passed away from before. Yeah, the same thing as the way that God with the prophets that have gone before. And God's command was a decree that was destined. الذين يبلغون رسالات الله ويخشونه ولا يخشون أحدا إلا الله وكفى بالله حسيبا. The ones who convey the messages of God, so those who went from before him, who had gone from before. They're the ones who convey the messages of God, and they yakhshawnahum is closer to fear him than taqwa, but yakhshawnahum is like be in awe of him, or like humbled by him, and they do not humble themselves before anyone except God. And God is sufficient as a reckoner, as a person who keeps the record. Now this verse, I have discussed this topic many times in the chapter, in the Quran, in my verses, and I'm very, very particular about what I believe as a result of this specific verse. So what does it say? ما كان محمد أبا أحد من رجالكم ولكن رسول الله وخاتم النبيين وكان الله بكل شيء عليما. So, Muhammad, which again he's named very specifically in this Quran as Muhammad. He is explicitly mentioned as Muhammad. And there's a reason why I say that is because Ahmad is in another verse, but that's just separate things. Muhammad was not a father to any of your men. He only had daughters. He did not have sons, which, if we're talking about marriage and inheritance, is very specific for a very specific reason. But he was a messenger of God. He was a messenger of God and the seal of the prophets. Now, the majority of the Muslim community believes that the Prophet Muhammad was the last prophet, and the majority believe that he was the last messenger, because they confuse the two terms. They think that messenger means prophet, and that is incorrect, and this is the exact verse that tells you that those two are separate things. He was a messenger of God and the seal of the prophets. Very specifically, not the seal of the messenger. So this is why I, and quite a few, there's not the majority. The majority of Muslims believe that the Prophet Muhammad's name was also Ahmad, and that the other verse is referring to him. Also, I think the Prophet believed that. But again, I don't think that the Prophet's words are of the same value of the Quran. I do believe that the Prophet can make mistakes in certain things, but he did not make any mistakes in the conveyance of the Quran. I think that was perfectly preserved. But other things might have been less than. And this is why I believe that there is going to be another messenger by the name of Ahmad. Because Muhammad is specifically mentioned here. And yes, he goes by many titles, but not many names. Some people say that Muhammad, Ahmad, and Mahmud are his names. But I don't know. I'm just reading the text in front of me. And the text in front of me says that he was a messenger, not the seal of the messengers, and the seal of the prophets, which I believe this means, at the very least, it's possible that there's a messenger after him. And there is a mention of a messenger in the Quran by another name. that I believe we have not seen yet. That is my personal belief. But nobody's watching anyway, so hey. Well, there's not nobody. You guys, the select few that are watching, the three that are watching, you guys are the real heroes. I love you guys so much. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you. Yeah. Which gives me the freedom to kind of say these radical ideas without any consequence, because if nobody's watching, then nobody can give me grief. Cut to 10 years from now. Oh, you said this on this video in the 3rd of March, 2026. Sure. And I will say it again in 10 years' time. No worries. And God is of everything all-knowing. Oh, here we have, he's not the father of Zayd, mentioned, or any other man. The Prophet had 3 biological sons who all died in childhood. Yeah, but and specifically because this talks about inheritance, and like the whole fact that the Shiites believe that the true successor to the Prophet Muhammad was Ali, I think his grandson, is not based in Islamic view of inheritance, but it is based on an emotional view. Whether they're right or wrong is not what I'm arguing. I'm just saying that he wasn't his heir from the male side, therefore he doesn't get the kingdom ruling. There's a very specific reason that the Prophet Muhammad did not have any male children. Just saying. Anyway. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اذكروا الله ذكرا كثيرا. O ye who believe, remember God, mention God, mention God, and often mention. Not just remember, but mention. Dhikr is not just remember. وَسَبِّحُوهُ بُكْرَةً وَأَصِيلًا, and glorify Him in the morning and in the evening. هو الذي يصلي عليكم وملائكته ليخرجن هو الذي يصلي عليكم وملائكته ليخرجكم من الظلمات إلى النور وكان بالمؤمنين رحيما. Now this is a very interesting verse. He's the one who prays upon you and his angels so that he may bring you out from the darkness into the light. And he is of the believers merciful. Now here they've translated it to showers his blessings on you. Sends his blessing. The word is pray. Yusalli. As we pray. So it makes you think, what the heck is prayer? It feels like prayer opens a connection to God so that you can receive his blessings. And it feels like when you pray to God, somehow he's praying back at you. And God's prayer is sending you something that can help bring you out of the darkness into the light. It's so strange. It's very fascinating. The idea of prayer, why prayer works, or why is it important? Why do we pray? We're not praying for God. We're praying for our own case. But in this case, it's saying God is praying upon you and his angels so that alaykum wa malaikatuhu. He prays upon you and prays upon his angels so that he can bring you out of the darkness into the light. Strange. Very strange. وَكَانَ بِالْمُؤْمِنِينَ رَحِيمًا. And he was to the believers merciful. تحيتهم يوم يلقونه سلام وأعد لهم أجرا كريما. Their greetings on the day that they meet him will be peace. Salam. I love salam. It's such a peaceful word. وأعد لهم, and he prepared for them a reward that is noble, an honorable, noble reward. يا أيها النبي إنا أرسلناك شاهدا ومبشرا ونذيرا. O Prophet, indeed we have sent you a witness and a bearer of glad tidings and as a warner. Yeah, witness, deliver good news, and a warner. This we've seen time and time again. I have to remember to review the Ramadan verse. وداعيا إلى الله بإذنه وسراجا منيرا. And one who invites towards God and calls towards God by his permission as a lamp that is illuminating, a caller to light by his command and a beacon of light. وبشر المؤمنين بأن لهم من الله فضلا كبيرا. Give good news to the believers that they are for God, that they will have a great bounty from God. ولا تطع الكافرين والمنافقين ودع آذاهم وتوكل. ولا تطع الكافرين والمنافقين ودع آذاهم وتوكل. I'm trying to get at least to this part. One right thing right. ولا تطع الكافرين والمنافقين ودع آذاهم وتوكل على الله وكفى بالله وكيلا. And do not obey the disbelievers and the hypocrites, and disregard their harm, and put your trust in God. Overlook their annoyances. No, disregard their harm specifically. Don't try to stop them from the harm that they're causing. Just trust that God. If you get into the weeds of trying to stop them, you're going to waste your energy. Just trust. God's got this. Put your trust in God. And God is sufficient as a trustee. يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا نكحتم المؤمنات ثم طلقتموهن من قبل أن تمسوهن فما لكم عليهن من عدة تعتدونها فمتعوهن وسرحوهن سراحا جميلا. Mouthfuls. Whew. Oh, people who believe, if you marry the believing woman and then you divorce them from before you have touched them, before you've had sex with them, then it's not for you from any waiting period that you have to do concerning them. Who is marrying people and then not on their wedding night going for it? You know what I mean? Huh? Maybe those who have already gone for it from before. It's just strange. But like, yeah, maybe the traditions back then were slightly different, but the tradition these days is on your wedding night, baby, you know people are gonna go for it. فَمَتِّعُوهُنَّ. Oh, so provide for them and release them a release that is good and gracious and beautiful. Before you touch them, before the marriage is consummated, yeah. No waiting period. Yeah, we know the waiting period. Well, why is it 65? I thought we had this in Surah An-Nisa. Yeah. 64? 65? I thought it was like... Oh. Because, yeah, it does say the waiting period, but we also covered it in chapter 2, didn't we? Anyway. Alright, and this is why I am adamant that the women of the Prophet don't just mean his wives, and Nisa don't just mean his wives. Here we go. يا أيها النبي إنا أحللنا لك أزواجك اللاتي آتيت أجورهن وما ملكت يمينك مما أفاء الله عليك وبنات عمك وبنات عماتك وبنات خالك وبنات خالاتك اللاتي هاجرن معك وامرأة مؤمنة إن وهبت نفسها للنبي إن أراد النبي أن يستنكحها خالصة لك من دون المؤمنين قد علمنا ما فرضنا عليهم في أزواجهم وما ملكت أيمانهم لكي لا يكون عليك حرج وكان الله غفورا رحيما. O Prophet, we have made lawful for you your wives, the ones that you have given their bridal money, and what your right hand possesses, ما ملكت يمينك, what you rightfully possess, what you have given your oath to. We have talked about this in depth in this channel quite a lot. From those who God has given to you and his daughters and your paternal uncles, and so and what has God has given to you, and the daughters of your paternal uncles, and the daughters of your paternal aunts, and the daughters of your maternal uncles, and the daughters of your maternal aunts, the ones who emigrated with you, and the woman who is believing that has given herself to the Prophet, if the Prophet wishes that he marry her, only for him without excluding the disbelievers. Like only he marries her, excluding the disbelievers. Which again, some parts of this is like, it's way above my level of understanding. Certainly we have known what we have made obligatory upon them concerning their wives. So now we're talking about a plural. And what malakat aymanahum, what they rightfully possess. Which sometimes I feel like what has been given their oaths. Is it the slaves? Is it the bondspeople? So that it does not be for you any discomfort, and God was oft forgiving and most merciful. We have made lawful for you. What does made lawful for you mean? Because, yeah, wives, you have paid their dowries. What you've given your oaths to, or what you rightfully possess. Oh, he's allowed to marry the daughters of the paternal uncles and aunts and the daughters. He's allowed to marry his cousins. And the believing woman who offers herself to you. This is exclusively for you and not to the rest of the believers. These are special conditions to the believers. Oh, okay, so maybe we're not talking about the women of the Prophet. But I would imagine the daughters of the Prophet are also considered the women of the Prophet. I think at least that's fair. I stand by my earlier point. But I don't think this is talking about that. But this is who is lawful for him to marry, if he wishes. Wait, this is exclusive for you and not the rest of the believers. I think it's about paying dowry, which again goes above my understanding. And the woman who has given herself to the Prophet, indeed we... لك من دون المؤمنين. Only for you from excluding the disbelievers. And we know what we have made obligatory upon them for their wives, which is the dowry, I guess, or what they rightfully possess the right hand, so that they do not لكي لا يكون عليك any discomfort. So that there would be no discomfort on the Prophet. So there were special exceptions made for the Prophet, but not for the rest of the believers. And God was oft forgiving and most merciful. And I always struggle with, why is that fair? Well, because he has a bigger obligation and duty, and he has more alignment with God in the sense that he's more... But then it kind of goes back to feeling culty, doesn't it? That the leader of our cult has rules that don't apply to the rest of you. And I'm using the words loosely, but it applies. That the Prophet has special rules that don't apply to the rest of us. Doesn't feel fair. Why? Because he's better than us? But I thought all men were supposed to be equal. Sure, some have bigger responsibilities. And some have better qualities. But that doesn't mean that they should have different rules. And you're saying, oh, only the Prophet is the exception? But why is there exception? Why is what we have not good enough for him? You know? I just have these questions. I just don't have the answers to them. It's very strange. Anyway, that's it for today. Thank you for watching. All three of you. Yeah, as usual, I always end with Sadaq Allah al-Ali al-Azim. And I will catch you guys tomorrow, inshallah. Ma'as salami. Bye.